Hi there, this is Caroline from Echolocity. Microsoft has been putting out a lot of new tools and features related to project management in the last couple of years, and I wanted to talk about what I have found to be the best apps in Teams to use for project management. The first one has really been in the product news recently for Microsoft. They have a new version of Planner that has been rolling out over the last year and a half, and it's not just for task management or to-do lists anymore. Planner now has a lot of great tools to use for project management, so we'll talk about that one. The Meet app is also available in Teams, not as new, but maybe one that you haven't looked at, and I have found it to be really useful for managing meetings and scheduling. This is something project managers always have to be keeping an eye on and making sure they're ready for and making sure they're following up on. And the Meet app can be a great way to do that with the meetings that you've got going on and the scheduling with your project teams. The final one is also a newer app, Loop, and I have been really loving it for notes and collaboration, but another piece that has been really useful for me about Loop is that it connects really well with both of these other two apps. It connects well with Planner and it connects well with the Meet app. So let's take a look at some examples in these three apps. Let me turn my face off just so it's a little easier to see what's going on. So when I open up my view in Teams, the first thing to check is just what you've got available here on your bar. I like to pin the apps that I use the most here on the left side. You can see I've got the Meet app here, the Planner app. If you can't see those, you can click on the three dots. You might already have, you should already have Loop available and Meet. You might need to click on the plus sign to get Planner if you're not seeing it. But once you click plus and search for Planner, you should get this result here for Planner, and it'll give you the option to add it. I've already got it over here on the left side, so I don't need to add it. But just a reminder of how you get those apps. Once you've opened them once, if you want to keep them on your toolbar, make sure you click on it and click Pin. Mine is saying Unpin, but you'll get the option to pin. So just a reminder of how that works on the toolbar. But in my Planner app in Teams, you've got some summary views on the left side first when you look at Planner. And I've done extensive video details on how all this works for the different kinds of plans within Planner. So take a look at those on our Echolocity YouTube channel if you'd like to get into more details. But I want to take a look at just a pretty straightforward project plan that I put together in a basic plan in Microsoft Planner. There are premium plans as well that have some more capabilities, but we're going to look at the version that anybody using Teams can get for free, essentially for free right now. The scenario is that I would be the project manager starting to work through these tasks for this Orlando software development project. And right now I've got them ordered by due date. We can see the other fields here that I've started to fill in. We've started to assign some tasks to specific people, started to sketch out the dates, start and end date, as well as the bucket. And the bucket is going to be what you can use to get a board view here. So I've got things grouped in this case by the bucket. I also can use the board view for other groupings if I'd like to see what tasks are unassigned or assigned to other people, and so on. So lots of ways that you can start laying out your project tasks, assign them to other people within Teams, and look at them in different views. The thing that is so helpful about this being in Teams is that it's going to interact with the folks that you assign directly within Teams. So if I add my colleague to a task, I know Lisa is going to be working on this second workshop. She will get a notification directly within Teams that she's been assigned to a task. And when she looks at her Planner app, under my tasks, she will now see this task assigned to her. In the same way, in my tasks roll-up, I've got the option to add some private tasks, is what this filter is looking at now. But when I look at assigned to me, I will get the view across any project of any task that is assigned to me, which is really powerful. I like to still keep them sorted by date, so I know what's coming up soon, and I can, even from this view, change the priority level, mark the progress, and access the detailed views of these particular tasks. So I encourage you, if you haven't used Planner yet for project and task management, take a look at what's already available to you in Teams. There's a whole lot you can do as a project manager just within this app from Teams. What about the actual meetings and scheduling that I have to worry about? I have been working more and more out of this Meet app in Planner. And this is really connecting directly with your calendar. but giving you the really nice overall views of what you have coming up. So up here on the top, we're used to our calendar view. I'll just look at that first. Here's my calendar view. I've got all these meetings. I can, adjust this view however I want. But if I want to get the focus view of what I have coming up tomorrow, I can see right here all these meetings I've got coming up tomorrow, including this Project Orlando. That was the project plan I was just looking at, was this Project Orlando. And I can see I have this weekly sync coming up, and there's some information here about an agenda and notes that have already been created. We'll come back to that in a minute because that's getting to that Loop app. But you've also got the quick buttons to send a reminder to everyone about this meeting, to reschedule the meeting, to start a chat with the meeting if you want to, and a few other things that you can do. I also have the option to take a look at my most recent meetings, and this is one I've been using a lot. When you're trying to think back to previous meetings, you can actually filter, I get my long list of, it's essentially all meetings in the last 30 days, but I can filter them by those that have content associated with them, such as a meeting that had a transcript recorded. I actually had another project meeting for this same Project Orlando back last Friday. I can take a look at the transcript and the notes, as well as any information in the chat, and get a hold of the recording. Or I can filter just by those meetings that were recorded. And this is something that I have found to be really useful, rather than having to click through your calendar, click into every meeting, go back and try to find the exact details you had for previous meetings. If you go through this Meet app, you have these great summary views that are fully integrated with the calendar that you already have. What's the connection then with the other app that I mentioned, Microsoft Loop? Let me click on my three dots just to bring us to Loop here. If you haven't used it much before, Loop is an app that increasingly people are using, sometimes in place of OneNote, but just in general to be doing things like taking meeting notes. In this case, for my test project, I've created a workspace in Loop for this Project Orlando. So I'll click on this workspace to take a look at it. When I come to this workspace within Loop, I can see a place where we've already gathered the information about a project brief, an overview of the project, the schedule, the sync schedule we've agreed on, and some of the team members. And interestingly, I've got a linked Loop page for the kickoff meeting that took place. And this is where we start to see the connections between Loop and the Meet app and Teams and Microsoft Planner. Because if I take a look at this Loop page that was created and view the recap, I can go directly back into this view in Teams that shows me the details of the meeting. If a transcript was recorded, I'll get that transcript. If I am using something like Copilot, I can go from here and actually generate a meeting summary and ask questions and that kind of thing, get other information about the meeting. The question is, and this is one of the sort of tips I have for working in Loop, is making sure you understand how Loop and meetings connect to each other. This can be a little bit confusing the first couple times you try to do it. So the way that this works, when I come, I'm going to go back to my Meet app and take a look at this meeting. I've got a weekly sync meeting. Looks like it's a recurring meeting. I'm going to edit the meeting series so that I get this view of this upcoming meeting. For me, this is a meeting that's supposed to be happening tomorrow at noon. Where Loop comes in is that it is now automatically the app that's being used in this section, which is called the Notes section of the meeting. If I click into this, I am actually creating meeting notes on that Loop page, and so I can view them here from the meeting. You'll be able to view them in the actual meetings themselves. If you've seen this within a Teams meeting, you now have a button that says Notes, and this is what you're going to see, is whatever was typed into this Loop component for notes. You can also view them in Loop themselves, in Loop itself, like the web view of Loop. So if I click on the shared location for Project Orlando Weekly Sync and click on it, it'll bring me to the full page through my browser for this particular meeting. Now, the trick here is in Loop, this is just going to be preserved as meeting notes unless you associate it with a particular Loop workspace. Now, I did create that Project Orlando workspace, so I'm going to click on the button here to say Add to Workspace, and choose my Project Orlando workspace. If I continue to use this loop page for my recurring meeting, I can actually keep coming back to this same set of notes every time I have a meeting for this particular project. What I actually like to do is indicate, so I know the first meeting is going to be on February 4th, just indicate the date for my agenda. And then I can start typing agenda item 1, agenda item 2, and maybe even assign people to those agenda items. In this case, I'll tag myself because I know that I'll be the first person talking about the agenda item. If I tag one of my colleagues, they'll get a notification that they're going to be talking about agenda item 2 in this loop page, and they can actually come directly to this notes page and add any notes they have in preparation for the meeting. Because you've associated this, you've got it now in the project workspace. Because you created this from the meeting itself, you can directly join the Teams meeting from here. And once the meeting's over, it's easy to find, really from any place. So if I come back out to Loop and just return to my workspace, I can now see I've got my kickoff meeting notes, I've got my weekly sync meeting notes, and there's a lot of options within Loop to organize these. You can make some of them different levels of hierarchy and collapse them if you don't want to see all the different pages. I'll do a little more detailed video on Loop in the future and all the different things you can do with it. But the point here for now is just to show how easy it is to connect directly to a meeting from Loop. Now, what about Planner? I claimed that Loop also connects really well to Planner, and that is also the case, and it's going to be a cool feature you can do directly from a Loop page. The way to insert some of the components is actually just to type /. And if I scroll down in all these, this is a ton of options of things you can add to a Loop page. But one of them is I can add the Planner app. And I get the option select a plan to insert. Well, that plan I was just looking at for the Olander software development as one of my pin plans. When I click insert, it's actually going to bring that exact plan that we were just looking at in Teams right here into the Loop page. And I can make updates the same way that I normally would. I could say, oh, we had the project kickoff meeting. That was the one last week. I'll check it off, and that's going to update everywhere in the planner task and everywhere else that actually was completed. So you don't have to create a copy, you don't have to put a link to some other location. You are actually interacting with the plan itself, which is a very cool thing about Microsoft Loop. Now, the caveat here for people that have been using Planner more is that this works for basic plans. You can directly embed basic plans like this in Loop. Right now, you cannot do it yet with premium plans. I'm sure they're working on that. It would be a great functionality to have. If you are working on a premium plan, that is a slightly different type of data, and you can put a link to it, but you can't directly interact with it. I have to say that caveat here. If you're trying to insert a plan and can't find it, it may be that you created a premium plan rather than a basic plan. But coming back to my diagram again, my main diagram, the cool thing about all three of these apps is that they are giving you the ability to actually manage tasks and projects through Planner, to easily manage your meetings and scheduling and get the quick views and all the things you're going to need to do in relation to meetings directly in Teams, and take your notes, collaborate, and connect with these other two apps really more and more in one view in a seamless way. So that's why for now, until we start seeing even more, I have a feeling more is coming, these are my top 3 project management apps in Microsoft Teams. Just remember, you can try all of these apps included with Teams right now. There's no extra cost, so it's definitely worth giving all of these a try and seeing what you can do in project management with them. Also, please check us out. We're Echolocity.com, and we have a lot more videos on our YouTube channel on all of these topics for project management, but especially for project management in Microsoft. Thank you.